See participating dealership or call 1-877-310-3673 for mail-in rebate details through 83110.
It's time for Points to Ponder.
Yes, I admit I got a thinking problem.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Your mic is hot. Make it hot.
And welcome back to hour number 2 of Points to Ponder. And of course, I'm Ron Ponder. We've got the Todds in the studio, Todd Bosley, Todd Snitchler. Both of them are running for the 50th District State Representative position. Todd Snitchler is the Republican incumbent. Todd Bosley is the Democratic challenger, currently Stark County Commissioner. The 50th House District includes Marlboro, Nimishillen, Osnaburg. I like saying that word, Osnaburg. Sandy, Sugar Creek, Tuscarawas, Pardo Perry, Lawrence, and Lake Townships.
And Pike.
And I also want to mention that Martin Olson is here in the studio with his trusty, dusty video camera. As you know, he is the author of the Stark County Political Report blog. And I'm sure you can catch up to his reporting on the next blog or the blog after that. Before we left, I should say, and took care of the news, Todd Bosley had made some comments about job creation and support, and he mentioned that the unions, the teachers' union, supported him. And one reason he felt that they supported him was because Todd Snitchler had voted for a piece of legislation that helped eliminate 18,000 teacher jobs. Todd Snitchler, you have an opportunity to respond to that.
I appreciate the opportunity to do that. That's flat out incorrect. That the bill which he's referring to is House Bill 1, which was the budget bill, which included all the state expenditures. It's a several thousand-page bill. It included the governor's evidence-based model, which was the change in school funding that
Evidence-based model for education.
For education, which is supposed to bring Ohio into compliance with the DeRolf decision. It was supposed to ensure that kids got proper funding. Well, there are serious problems.
The DeRolf decision was the 4 court cases where
Correct.
the Ohio Supreme Court ruled that the formula for funding education was unconstitutional.
Correct. And this was the governor's opportunity to correct that, as he told everyone he would. Well, the problem with the evidence-based model, and the problem that we tried to point out during the process, was there's not enough money to do all the things that are in the bill. So when you look at the evidence-based model, as it is proposed and as the Columbus Dispatch has evaluated, it's short at least $2.5, maybe $3.5 billion of funding. So we've got a model of a bill that is supposed to correct school funding problems. It's supposed to make school funding work, and yet there's $3.5 billion that are short.
So where's the 18,000?
Ron, that was not the bill I was talking about.
Okay, well let him finish though.
And therein lies the issue, is we're talking about fixing school funding and doing the right things, and we pass a bill and say, yay, we've solved it, but there's no way to pay for it. And you can't continue to pass unfunded mandates and jam it down to schools and say, well, you figure it out, because we at the state level have a responsibility to fund schools. And that same bill was the first time we've cut the state share of school funding since the DeRolf decision. And I don't support that. I don't think that's the right way to do it.
And those 18,000 jobs were in that bill?
I don't know where else they would be coming from.
Okay, that's Todd Snitchler. Todd Bosley, you want to comment?
Yeah, I am not talking about House Bill 1. I was talking about House Bill 400, which seek to eliminate 40% of the state budget. Snitchler helped lead an effort to eliminate 40% of the state government, which would force local libraries to close. Even worse, it would slash $250 million from Stark County schools. If you think that's funny, sir, I don't. Meaning teacher layoffs and increased property taxes. This would also have resulted in layoffs of thousands of police and firefighters, and would even cut the number of parole officers, meaning less supervision for convicted sex offenders and other criminals who have been released from jail. That's serious business. We're talking about, and this is going to become a very substantive part of this race. We cannot gut our government. We can't just cut things that matter to people, schools, libraries, and things like that. With the funding of the state income tax, do away with it and not have a plan to replace it.
So, and you're talking about House Bill 400.
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Snitchler, you didn't vote for it, right?
That's a great point to bring out. It hasn't even been passed out of committee because the committee chairman has said this bill is dead on arrival. So if we'd like to talk about the issue, I'd be happy to do that. I think it's more important for us to talk about the issues that are bills that have been passed, like the education funding bill that's unfunded to the tune of $3.5 billion. I think that's important. And when Mr. Bosley says that I want to cut libraries, I think it's important to remember who proposed cutting the libraries in the budget. That would be the governor. And I have in front of me a letter from June 30th saying, "Dear Mr. Governor, I'm expressing my strong opposition to funding cuts to our state library system because we do a great job. You made a deal with the libraries. Don't go back on your word." So I think that demonstrates my real position on the issues and not a hypothetical that we're trying to create that says I now want sex offenders to have less supervision. I think we're reaching
Okay,
a new
still
low.
trying to find out.
I have a question.
Wait,
Mr.
wait. I'm still trying to find out where those 18,000 jobs went, if they went anyplace. Todd, where did he vote against 18,000 teachers' jobs?
He sponsored House Bill 400, which is
He sponsored it, but it hasn't been voted on.
Right, and I'll stand corrected for saying the voted part of it. I should have
Okay.
said that he sponsored a bill that would have removed 18,000 teachers from the state of Ohio.
Okay.
My question to Mr. Schnitzler is, Mr. Schnitzler, did you support House Bill 400?
I absolutely co-sponsored House Bill 400 because I
There you
think
go.
it's important for
That's
us
the
to
answer.
evaluate what we're doing in the state of Ohio. If we want to debate the merits of House Bill 400, I'm happy to do it. The issue in House Bill 400 is, can Ohio do things differently than we're doing it now to make it attractive for jobs, to bring companies to the state, and to change our tax posture? If we want to just keep saying, well, let's roll back the tax cuts from 2005, let's just keep going for low-hanging fruit and not really address the issue, I think you're doing this disservice to the taxpayers of the state of Ohio. We need to be thinking about aggressive, different ways for us to solve the state's problem. I thought we agreed on that earlier, that that's an important part of our success in the state. And this is a discussion topic that ought to be done. Is now the right time for it? I don't know that it is, but I think it's a great time to have the conversation, because as we come out of this economic doldrums that we're in, and we will, that is the time for us to think about how will we implement changes to policy to make Ohio attractive to the companies that are leaving, for new businesses that want to be here. That's the way for us to make sure we're competitive and attract them.
Okay, we've got 90 seconds before I have to take a break, Todd Bosley.
Ron, House Bill 400 is what it is. It would completely gut the education system in the state of Ohio, particularly in Stark County. That's why the educators have supported me. They said we can't have this kind of thinking in Columbus. My opponent has just admitted to you that he supported that bill, that he was behind it. And I appreciate that, because we're not going to get anywhere until we realize that this kind of thinking just can't go forward in the state of Ohio. If we have a car that doesn't run and the radiator's bad and needs a set of brakes, we don't rip the whole engine out and start all over and say we got to go buy a new car. We take what we have and we repair it and we fix it. The way we do that in the state of Ohio is we create jobs and get things back on track.